Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Sasa. I make English videos about Rwandan politics. As Christmas is near us, Merry Christmas to all who celebrate, and a Happy New Year to everyone. I wanted to take some time and make a video about the man who's sort of started my whole interest in Rwandan politics. I met this man when I was about 13 years old, actually. I met him in my social studies class. It was in grade 9. It was in a Canadian human rights curriculum lesson, and we were in the class viewing and analyzing two films. And that's when I first met Mr. Paul Rusesabagina. Um, and I think it was a moment that changed my life now that I look back to it. It was a big surprise for me. It's an odd meeting. I had a personal rule as a child, and I suspect other Rwandan kids had a similar one. I didn't consume any Rwandan material. You don't read about Rwanda, you don't read stories about it, news about it. You just disassociated with the country. And this is because at 13 years of age, I kind of already thought I knew the story of my birth country. The narrative had stuck from what I've heard. And the narrative goes that in April 1994, um, Hutus in Rwanda collectively agreed to kill, rape, and exterminate their Tutsi neighbors and other fellow countrymen. The killing and genocide was stopped in August 1994 when the Rwandan Patriotic Front rebels, led by Paul Kagame, intervened. Um, the Inkotanyi, they call themselves. They say they ended the genocide of the Tutsis. And so that's the narrative I had growing up. And I don't know when one starts to embody or truly believe a certain narrative to let it shape your life. I suspect for me it started when I noticed that the adults always act different when they speak about Rwanda. You know, strong people get quiet, their backs stiffen, they tense up, their voices get lowered, and the topic always somehow steals the rest of the night. And the topic of Rwanda always comes at the most unexpected places: weddings, wedding showers, funerals, births, birthdays. When I look back at it, I think that's how our parents um, heal or attempted to heal each other. And every night it would end with tears and cries. The stories of Rwanda, they always left you cold as a child. So I ran away from them. I learned to protect myself from the stories of Rwanda. And somewhere along the way, I think I started truly believing the RPF propaganda. Somewhere along the way, I started believing that all Hutus are Interahamwe, you know, all Hutus are bad, all this and that. So in that social studies class, as I watched Don Cheadle, who's the American actor who played Paul Rusesabagina, he was running around bargaining and fighting for fellow Tutsi Rwandans' lives. The story of Rwandan to me changed at that moment. I watched Mr. Rusesabagina fight and hold on to his family. He prayed, begged for them, spoke to them, and all along there, I realized there was a Hutu man. He was a smart, eloquent, and educated, and so naturally charming. He was a Hutu man who was loved, a Hutu man who did not kill, a Hutu man who placed himself in between animals and his fellow human beings. Here was a Hutu man who, in the face of the greatest evil of Rwanda and all that darkness of those 100 days, he retained his humanity. He stayed integrity. He kept his integrity. And that stayed with me as a child. It also snapped me out of the trance of the RPF narrative. It made me curious about what else I didn't know. If people like Paul Rusesabagina existed, how many more were there? So in his story of Hotel Rwanda, you know, my feelings toward what I thought were the ethnic stories, my impressions of Rwanda, the relationships between ethnicities, my belief of what that meant in, in the 90s in Rwanda, everything changed for me, you know. This was a man, Paul Rusesabagina. He's a very complicated man, and the Rwandan government finds him to be a very dangerous man. Um, and it took me a while to understand why. I had a chance to read Paul Rusesabagina's autobiography called "An Ordinary Man," and in that book, you really see it paints a picture to you what actual Rwandan life was, its challenges, its imperfections, its but also its beauty and how together everyone was. He was born in 1954 in Gata Gatama or somewhere in Rwanda. I forgot the exact part. He was born to a Hutu father and a Tutsi mother. Um, he in his story he recounts how during the revolution his family shielded some Tutsis within their home and compound. So he says that's where he first learned about respecting human life and how you fight for others. He saw it through his own father fighting for people's lives. And for those who haven't watched Hotel Rwanda, the movie is about how in 1994 Paul Rusesabagina was a manager of the Hotel des Mille Collines, which was it was a tourist hotel. It was a five-star hotel, and he was able to shield about 1,200 Tutsis and Hutus in within the hotel and spare them from the genocide. And so that's what the movie was about. In his own personal life, he stayed in Rwanda until about 1996. Then he left Rwanda for Belgium. He's now a Belgian citizen, and also holds a U.S. green card. In 2006, he began to become much more involved in Rwandan politics. He has his own party. It's called PDR Ihumure. He's part of the MRCD opposition, and there's a coalition within that opposition. I still haven't quite figured out how it works, but looking into it. The reason I am now speaking about Paul Rusesabagina in 2021 is that in August 31st, 2020, he had plans to go to Burundi. He does a lot of public speaking, but also a lot of pastoral and aid care. So his plan was to go to Burundi. He was supposed to do he had meetings to attend to, and yeah, and organizations, blah, blah, blah. He was to leave from Dubai. He boarded a plane in Dubai and found himself in Kigali. Now, as the story keeps coming out, it turns out the friend, the friend who was helping him plan his journey was actually being used by the Rwandan Patriotic Front. So they were paying this man to kidnap Paul Rusesabagina. So Paul Rusesabagina was drugged, kidnapped, placed into the plane in Dubai, flown into Kigali, and charged on terrorism charges based on a 2018 armed attack. Based on a 2018 attack on Rwanda that left 9 dead. So this attack was from an armed wing of Paul Rusesabagina's party called the FLN. The FLN is headed by its leader Sankara. So it's quite complicated. But essentially, Rwanda is saying that he's a terrorist and they have charged him with 25 years of prison. Where this story is completely ridiculous is that Paul Rusesabagina was kidnapped. He was not repatriated, as they call it. He was drugged and kidnapped, flown into a country that is known to torture and kill opposition to the ethnic totalitarian. Yeah. So um, it's an unfortunate situation he's in. But his wife on the screen, Tatiana, who I have got to mention, she is of the Tutsi ethnicity. Um, she's very much a large part of his story. She was played by Sophie Okolonode in the movie. Um, but her and her daughters, Anez and Karine, have been fighting all through 2020 to try and free him, and it's been an amazing fight to see. They've been very strong, courageous, and they're not giving up. And watching them fight for their father shows me that I sort of have a place in shaping Rwanda's future. Paul gave to so many Rwandans in the diaspora an image we could look up to in pride. He's a person we can aspire to. He showed me the old Rwanda that our parents, our aunties and uncles laugh, dance and cry for, Mr. Rusesabagina showed the world the humanity and tenderness that the Rwandan community has always surrounded ourselves with. It's true that Hutu extremists attempted to exterminate the Tutsi people of Rwanda. That is a truth we must never forget. But in Paul Rusesabagina, he is like he is a physical proof that Rwandans have good in them. That Rwandans, when given the opportunity, will choose to do good to other Rwandans as opposed to the opposite. Um, and I feel that we must repay his kindness with kindness. And I want to make this video for people, people in the diaspora who are also young. Last year, a lot of people marched for George Floyd. We got money together. People bought shirts. People made placards. We said Black Lives Matter. And I think for our diaspora, we now need to start saying Rwandan Lives Matter. Because it is hypocritical to say Black Lives Matter if you do not even care about the lives of the people who you share so much with. So in the upcoming 2021 year, I want to tell you that Paul Rusesabagina, he's a version of our Mandela. He is fighting for a future for all Rwandans. He's fighting for a world where ethnicity, ubwoko, doesn't define oneself. A safe Rwanda, a just Rwanda. And for the young people, for the young Intore who mock Karine and Anez on Twitter, who laugh at her for fighting for her father's life, you are really no different to the Interahamwe, who were mocking him and laughing at him across the hills in 1994, telling him, "We will kill you the moment the hotel is surrounded." And and so I am here to tell you that no, turaje. Tuza kumure kura. And the last one is turi hano ubu. Paul Rusesabagina is our freedom fighter. We are coming for him. We're coming to free him. We are here now. Rwandans are here now. Our parents have started a revolution. We need to support them. We need to help them in this battle. Again, thank you for listening. My name is Sasa. Merry Christmas to all who celebrate, and a Happy New Year. Bonne année to everyone.